All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Episode 34 of Few Good Mics. Geez, after it's probably been a year since we last did a podcast. Didn't you say that?
We took a small hiatus, and
Yep.
we're back.
After the last, I swear, like 3 podcasts before, we was like, oh, after a short break, blah, blah, blah. You know, we just flat out stopped doing it.
We've been training for a year for this.
Yep. So, Mike, better be good this time around.
Oh, I'm good.
All right. It's got tons of stuff going on. It's spring training starting up. Got college basketball tournaments. But what we are here for is the mania that is NFL free agency. Seems like today has been like the only day where we haven't had a crazy move out of the last week. Crazy rumors. So that will get to all the Packers stuff. We'll get to Antonio Brown, all the under the radar stuff. But first, what we got to talk about was the trade that shocked the NFL world on Tuesday night when the Giants traded their Pro Bowl receiver, Odell Beckham Jr., to the Cleveland Browns for the 17th overall pick in this year's draft, the 3rd round pick in this year's draft, and former Browns 1st round pick, safety out of Michigan, Jabril Peppers. So we'll start this from the Browns' perspective. What do you think? How do you think they made out in the deal? How do you think this affects the Browns? We'll start with that.
All right, yeah, no, I mean, when you get a guy like Odell Beckham, there's no way that you can lose on that trade. That's obviously a big win for the Browns. As long as they can they got a lot of stuff going on there. You know, you just picked up Kareem Hunt and a lot going on with him. He's on the commissioner's exempt list, as far as I know. You're pairing up Landry and Odell Beckham, which, I mean, they played together at LSU and seem to be good friends, but you never know what could happen. You know, they're both used to being number one guys since they've been in the league for the most part. So I do think the Browns got the better half of that deal, but I would like to also point out everyone's saying how it's monumental and it was a steal and all this, which is fair. Odell Beckham's kind of a one-of-a-kind player, but, you know, the Giants they kind of snuck away okay. I mean, if you look at the Giants offense, they just picked up Golden Tate, who has 3,000-yard seasons with the Lions.
Yeah.
You know, it's not gonna probably be a 1,000-yard season for him, but it's not out of his range to do that. I think at this career he could still sneak away at least 1,000-yard season. So that's not bad. You got Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and obviously Saquon Barkley. I want to say broccoli because I say it all the time. And a first-round pick, along with they filled their safety gap in the addition of Peppers with an additional 3rd-round pick. I don't think it's that bad for them either. They didn't want him there. They were shopping him last year, wanted 2 first-round picks. They essentially got that because Peppers was a first-round pick, was he not?
Yeah, I believe the Browns traded back up into the 1st round. I'm not sure, but he was a 1st-round pick.
He was, and he played really well. He's had a good career so far, very young, obviously only 1 year, but not bad. You got the 1st-round pick. You know, you're not going to probably fill it up and shoes like that easily, but I certainly don't think that the Giants got a bad half of that bargain. They got what they wanted out of it, and they filled his shoes like a bit with Golden Tate. Sterling Shepard's still pretty good. Maybe you trade up a little bit, use that 3rd round to get a little bit higher and get what is his name? The Metcalf?
The receiver?
Yeah,
from Ole Miss, yeah, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I mean, it's not there. Everybody thinks that they got robbed, and they didn't want him. They were shopping him last year. I don't think it's that bad of a deal for them. You know, and if the Browns can hold their own, their offense is obviously going to be good. But I mean, even since Baker took over and obviously as a rookie quarterback, I mean, they lost to the Raiders last year. They lost to the Buccaneers. I mean, these aren't good losses. To say that Odell Beckham is going to be able to change that Sure, I think he'll be able to help them out offensively a lot, but everybody's writing him into the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship, and I don't think that's the case. I mean, playoff berth would be a start, but Odell Beckham's not going to carry you to the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. You know, when they traded Gretzky, everybody freaked out. And how many Stanley Cups did he win with the Kings? A big goose egg. That's how many.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's comparing Odell Beckham to Wayne Gretzky.
I'm just saying Gretzky was obviously that much better, and that was much more of a basketball where you can have one guy carry you. Odell Beckham's not going to be able to do that. There's no chance.
No, but I think when you're looking at the Browns, what you're taking, just adding him to all the momentum they had last year, right? Because when Baker Mayfield took over, you saw the jolt into the team from the beginning, and obviously they got what 6-7 wins. I think obviously putting them in the AFC Championship game is a stretch for now, but it's like you look at them on paper, they're really good. They're stacked. But obviously the games are not played on paper, but I'd still put them at the favorites to win the AFC North right now. Just if you move Jarvis Landry down to, he's better as a number 2 because everyone says he's the prototype slot guy. Well, not prototype slot guy, but he's at his best in the slot. You got the game breaker up top with Odell Beckham. You've got, I mean, whenever Kareem Hunt comes back, and even then you got Nick Chubb, who was a stud last year.
You agreed. Yeah, nothing wrong.
But speaking strictly from Odell Beckham, he just adds, like, he's a top 3 receiver, like give or take a spot. I wouldn't put him any lower than 4. It's all just a matter of, but he was last year, and the jump you expect him to take. I think they should certainly be the favorites to win the division next year.
I mean, I think that's not necessarily a fair thing. It's kind of, in my opinion, almost cowardly, because I feel like Baltimore traded everybody away, or everyone left, especially that defense. They did get Mark Ingram, which is big, and then the Bengals are dead as far as I know.
Yeah, I'm not even considering the Bengals.
And then
it's a 2-horse race between Baltimore and Cleveland right now, because I mean they let go of a bunch of high guys that ended up being high priced guys, but Baltimore, at least you could say the same thing about Pittsburgh too, that they have a history of being able to plug and play guys, and they still have a decent secondary. It's just whether they fill the shoes in the pass rush, because obviously Zadarius Smith is gone, Terrell Suggs is gone, and then obviously that
TJ Mosley's gone.
TJ Mosley, the thumper in the middle. They got holes to fill.
How long has Terrell Suggs and TJ Mosley been playing alongside each other?
But I'd say you could still trust Harbaugh to at least make them competitive.
Harbaugh barely got his job this next year. I think
that was when they decided to fully go away from Joe Flacco,
which was the right move. But then the Steelers are obviously without Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. They got a bunch of issues on their side. I mean, the Browns should walk this division with their team as long as they keep everybody in line. They got a lot of divas.
Yeah, it's a lot to ask of first-year head coach Freddie Kitchens, who was just elevated from quarterback coach to coordinator, and now he's the head coach. It's a lot to ask, but that's one thing another thing that Cleveland's got to deal with too is everyone's expecting them to make the leap next year. And, everything we've seen with Baker Mayfield, even going back to college, he seems to handle expectations pretty well. He seems to do well for himself. Team seems to love him.
Yeah, so, owns that locker room, and you could tell the second with Tyrod. Or Tyrod, sorry.
Does it really matter?
Apparently not, because he's a backup quarterback for the Chargers now. So he doesn't.
Yeah, that's another deal. But yeah, And when I was going back to your point on the Giants, having the last couple of days to think about it, I sort of agree with you on that. It's just signing him to a big money deal. It's just the money thing, I guess. You pay him $20 million and then you take a $15 million cap hit this year to not have him on your roster. I mean, the picks and whether you believe in Jabril Peppers to end up being a top safety or not. It's just what do you believe in him at? But overall, they did okay. I think they probably would have gotten more for him last year, but you're still getting good picks for him, especially in the loaded class this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think people overreacted, and when you sit down and look at it, and the fact of the matter is that the Giants didn't want him last year to the point where they were shopping him and wanted 2 first-round picks.
They were basically forced to re-sign him because of the way you're not going to let that talent go.
Right, because you can still get something for him. And for what they got, they didn't come out. They came out okay, and who knows? They pick a good pick. Could be the next Odell Beckham. Obviously, that's few and far between, but you just don't know, dude. And Peppers could turn out to be really good too, and you never know who they could get with that 3rd-round pick. They didn't want him, and they ended up getting essentially 2 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick. I don't think it's that bad of a deal. They didn't want him. Look at how you can transition this into the Steelers, Antonio Brown. They didn't want him. What did they get? They got a 3rd and a 5th-round pick.
Oh, you want to talk about robbery? Jeez, the Steelers completely botched that situation, man.
And the kicker with Antonio Brown is injuries. Look at Odell Beckham versus Antonio Brown and how long they've each been in the league. Antonio Brown is like durable as all durable, dude.
Yeah, like Antonio Brown is one of the most productive receivers in the history of the NFL. You got Juju, but Juju benefited from Antonio Brown.
And he was better before Juju was even in the NFL.
Yeah, like he's had 6 straight seasons of 1,200 plus yards.
Right.
And 4 out of the last 5 years, he's had double-digit touchdowns. You can't just replace that.
Right. And in 2017, Odell Beckham got hurt, only came away with 300 yards, but he got hurt. I get that. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
But and then he came back in 2018 to have his worst season that he's had in the NFL of over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns less. So just saying, like, it could be quarterback related, scheme related, whatever you want, team, who you're playing. I get it. But I'm just saying, like, the Giants made out okay. People are saying they didn't. They got robbed, whatever. They made out okay for what they had. Look at Antonio Brown. He was a 3rd, 5th-round pick.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse. A lot worse.
And they didn't even want him.
Like, I think they could have gotten so much more for him. It's just like a matter of, you see it all the time, is you don't want to you block out potential deals just because you don't want to trade him to a certain team. It's like at some point you got to just take the best deal you can. Why would you? It's like, is it really worth 2-round picks lower not to send him to the Patriots or something? Like, I get that they're your main rival, and that he wouldn't go to the Bills for what I would assume they're giving up at least a 2nd.
I think that is just like a sports code, the rivalry code, because
it's
go back to the Brewers this year when they were willing to trade the Reds for Matt Harvey, and the Reds would have lost Matt Harvey, but they were going to lose him anyways, and they still wouldn't trade anything for him because they didn't want to trade him in the division.
To a certain degree, I get it, but it's like, on the other side,
I don't get it.
You got to be smart at the same time.
I'm trading in the division or out of division. I'm getting the best deal.
It's like, I don't care if the Patriots could give me a 1st-round pick. I'll trade him there. If you really don't want Antonio Brown,
yeah.
Like
I think that
then what's the big deal?
I think that the issue comes in where it's the execs and the people pulling the strings that don't want him to come back, ravage them for 300 yards and 3 tutties, and then the fans calling for his head. And
It's a straight ego thing.
oh,
It's a pride thing.
It's not going to happen. And you still keep your job. That's the kicker. You're protecting your own ass, essentially.
But yeah, and then when you're doing that, and then you get the deal you get from the Raiders, who everyone's been absolutely piling on for the moves that they've made over the last year, is like you made the Raiders look smart. So it ended up biting them in the ass anyway.
And you never know how a person's going to be on a certain team in reference to Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham trade. When the Raiders traded Cooper, they got a first-round pick, and he didn't do anything with the Raiders for essentially a season and a half. And he actually excelled on the Cowboys, and I thought he did really well.
I thought a first-round pick was
I thought that was incredibly.
I thought it was a great return. I don't know how they got a first-round pick.
Yeah, exactly. Dumb on the Cowboys.
Yeah, and then it just happened where I don't know if it was just he was motivated or something, because I wouldn't necessarily say Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Derek Carr, or Jason Garrett a better offensive coach than John Gruden. It's just I don't know what the exact reasoning is that he did so much better in Dallas.
But I mean, that's you just don't know. You just don't know. So that's the same as Odell Beckham. I mean, who's to say he doesn't get hurt this year, or he just does like he's garbage? You just don't know.
Yeah, anything can happen in the NFL. We know that. So then, asking the same question what he did with the Browns. What do you think? How do you think the Raiders are doing? Because the Raiders actually overall in their offseason have spent a ton of money. Obviously, they traded for Antonio Brown, adding that money, giving him more money to like rework his deal. Then you signed Tyrell Williams. Jeez, who else did they signed a left tackle from the Patriots? So they're setting themselves up to at least look better on offense this year.
The Raiders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Gruden came in and made a lot of changes that were massive, and I don't think people got on board.
It's tough to trust him right now, though.
It is.
Like we said with the Browns, the moves look good on paper, but after what they did last year, you can't trust them. You can't trust them to do anything.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, if you sell off your entire team, no matter who you are, the Bengals sell off A.J. Green, take the worst teams, you're going to get something from Mike Evans. If you sell off your team and plan to rebuild, you're obviously going to come up with cap room is going to be the first thing, and then draft picks. So if his plan is to kind of bust for 2-3 years and then be groomed up or whatever, Antonio Brown's not going to have that much time, but I don't know. I mean, you're obviously going to be able to pull these guys in when you trade everyone away, but you also don't have Khalil Mack on your defense anymore either. So you have Antonio Brown, but your defense has holes beyond holes. So,
which you got to think now that they have 3 first-round picks, they're gonna. I would go just straight up defense the whole way.
Right. We'll see. Gruden's a tough call.
Yeah, he's the definition of a wild card head coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on to the next bit of business, we got the Green Bay Packers. Finally, Brian Gutekunst did his second offseason as the GM, making some splashes. Got 2 pass rushers in I'm going to mess up his name.
Zadarius
Smith and Preston Smith from the Ravens and the Redskins. And then they signed the offensive lineman Billy Turner. So and Adrian Amos from the Bears. So you're weakening a division opponent. I don't know. I think they made off really good so far in this first week.
Yeah, I do like the signings. the fact that they're younger in age.
They're all 25, 26 years old.
Something to target. Like even in the Earl Thomas and Antonio Brown. You'd obviously want Antonio Brown, but the thing is, like, if you're building and kind of going for a dynasty, these are key signings. As long as they all pan out, that's great signings. They say you never want to win March, but we needed that help desperately because our past 3 drafts have been absolutely horrendous. Out in the past 3 drafts, outside of on the defensive side, you got Kenny Clark. We got a couple good corners in this last draft, but like, there's been no names that you're going to re-sign. You're not going to Jake Ryan. Did you re-sign him?
Yeah. Outside of the corners, that I think Jair Alexander is really the only guy I could say that is going to, I would put as close to sure. He's not surefire, but I would say he's the closest to it out of the guys that we recently drafted. Josh Jackson, he had his ups and downs, but Kenny Clark is really the only other stud that we've had.
That's it, dude. And the thing is, even go back more so, not necessarily last year's because you can't really tell. Demarius Randall is gone. Quentin Rollins, I don't even know if he's still on the team anymore. Go back even farther. Dayton Jones was a total bust. Nick Perry, pretty much a bust.
Yep, couldn't stay healthy.
Defensive players that other teams like have had, even Adrian Amos, you drafted him 5th, like all these guys outside of Preston Smith are 3rd rounder back. And the Packers don't have anybody like that. I mean, Blake Martinez is the only one that's kind of in that category.
Yeah.
So we had to pick him up in order to still refresh that defense because you're not going to be able to draft 4 guys like that that'll immediately start.
No, that's not happening.
Be at that skill level. It's not going to happen. It kind of takes away from the draft and develop team that the Packers are. Nothing wrong with signing free agents. It's been proven to work occasionally, not often.
It's all about spending smart. That you could be like the Dolphins and spend a ton of money like they did with like Mike Wallace and Ndamukong Suh and all that.
Right.
And then you're not winning jack. But you look at the Broncos, what they did 2 years, like when they had Peyton Manning and DeMarcus Ware and all that. It's like you go and win a Super Bowl. It's just all about making the right moves. And you hope that these guys pan out. And they've, at least with Zadarius Smith, he's coming off a career year. So you hope that just keeps the progression. Like you're betting on that. But
off on the massive names like the Landon Collins for $84 million 6-year deal.
They were never going to spend that money.
Is really, really good and just a step below, which in the grand scheme isn't going to hurt you, and you save so much money getting that below great category guy, and you can sign that allows you to sign more guys like Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith without signing the Landon Collins, who's only going to fill 1 hole when you have 4.
Yeah, it's all about But now that they obviously released Nick Perry too, which frees a bit more money, and they're probably not bringing back Matthews. So that pass rush is going to look completely different with these new guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to still see them bring Muhammad Wilkerson back. Like let's on another 1 year prove it deal. I think Wilkerson has said that he wants to come back. But other than that, you just wait unless you can find a couple more under the radar guys in a couple weeks leading up to the draft, but you just pretty much could wait until then now.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jordy come back. That would be a great addition to the offense that I think desperately needs a solid second wide receiver.
Hell, even
Randall Cobb's in that spot. I think he's a slot guy. So
yeah, I don't think they're bringing him back either.
Right.
But and if they just bring him back as a mentor, Jamon Moore and EQ and all those guys, like it'd be a worth it signing because I don't think you'd have to pay that much to get him.
Well, and he's one thing that you'll notice is if I think Randall Cobb actually had the most completions, even though he was hurt, and I could be wrong on that, but if you notice, he's always in dire situations. He was always Aaron Rodgers' safety blanket, always before Devontae Adams. That's just the chemistry that they had. And Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson had the most chemistry. I mean, they led the league for like 2 years in touchdowns.
Yeah, and you saw how many times that last year was how many throwaways that Rodgers had, and it was how much of that had to do with he doesn't have the chemistry. He doesn't trust those guys yet.
Throwaways, or he sits there and swears and shakes his head. And
it's like, but that like the motions to the receivers and stuff.
constantly. That's all it was. And the fact that they're like best friends, Jordy and A-Rod, is only going to build on their chemistry. And it's a great signing. He needs to come back home. A little biased, but it's still got to happen.
No, I'm with you on that. But the one thing I'm sort of like hoping for, I'm not sure how much, like he's a pretty big name, but he's coming off an injury. Just got released, so I don't know how much he'll end up costing, but I'm looking right at Eric Berry. Got released by the Chiefs yesterday. And I'm just thinking if they add him alongside Adrian Amos, you don't have to start Josh Jones. You can move him around if you want to. Because he was good on special teams last year, even keep him on strictly that. But I'm looking at Eric Berry if they can get him.
Eric Berry was solid. The thing that the Chiefs have made some pretty odd moves, and I don't know if it's because they've been to the same point and just want to make a couple changes. Sort of like the Jordy Nelson drop for Jimmy Graham. Just got to change it up and see what happens. I think that's kind of along lines of what they're doing because Eric Berry was obviously really good, and not that Tyrann Mathieu isn't, but
yeah, I think it was a lot of they had like a big roster bonus coming up, right? And like I said, he's coming off an injury, and you're not going to tie up that much money to two safeties. So
right. Well, and the thing too, though, cutting Justin Houston, and then
he was getting older.
D Ford, correct? Because that had not gone through yet.
No, he's a 49er now.
Yeah. So I mean, they're just kind of making big moves, getting rid of some good players. I get cutting like an older guy like Justin Houston, but in the same stroke, he's a valuable person on that defense. So it's just kind of odd. Their moves have been fairly odd.
Well, I think they hired they got Spagnuolo, former Giants guy, and they're switching up from a 3-4 to a 4-3. So it's either thinking we don't think D Ford is going to produce for 2 years in a row because really last year was his big breakout year, and the year he's produced the most, and they didn't feel comfortable paying him that much to sort of fit in the scheme. Because obviously he's got the talent, but if he doesn't fit, then you're not going to keep him for that.
Well, he was coming off an injury in 2017, correct?
I'm not sure.
I believe he was. And then he has this massive year of 13 sacks. He's 27 years old. He's right on that cusp of could continue to grow, but not much, I mean, so I don't mind getting rid of him. I just think they've made a lot of changes for a defense that was bad, but had some good players.
They just sort of like what we call with the Jaguars with their offense. They just needed the defense to be decent, and they win that game against the Patriots. They might be Super Bowl champions right now, but they weren't. So.
Yeah, we'll see. But Packers have made good moves. We'll see what they do in the draft. They don't have as many holes to fill on defense anymore, which is going to help with
you could especially that you take best player available now.
I was just going to say, I think it frees up to do the best draft method if available for your team, and that's take the best player available. Because then you're not stuck picking. You need a D lineman or D end, an edge rusher, and you pick a guy that could have lasted 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to do it because you don't know when he's going to go. So that's the best draft method: is the best player available. But not every team has that luxury, and the Packers didn't have that prior to free agency. They really didn't.
No, they didn't, because
they were absolutely
at that.
Now you don't know. It frees it up.
Like you could go best defensive player that, like, so let's say someone drops or a couple quarterbacks go early, which makes people drop. You could take one of the Iowa tight ends at 12 if you want to. That'd be perfectly fine. You could take DK Metcalf if he falls. Take a receiver because they can go anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, solid moves. But devil's advocate, let's look at last year. Muhammad Wilkerson, Jimmy Graham. I was pumped. You were pumped.
Yeah.
No denying that. Honestly, Wilkerson got hurt. You never know. You can't predict that stuff, but it's still the hindsight. It's not a good pick. Whatever. And then you have Jimmy Graham. Just wasn't as productive as you'd hoped. So I mean, you never know. We'll see. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm just saying.
See, I
never want to win March, and that's a football term, not a basketball term, and there's a reason for it.
See, part of it is like I get it, but I would much like part of me is happy that they're at least swinging. I would rather swing and miss than not swing at all. And in the NFL, we've seen it. If you let's sign them to a bad contract, it's really the only guaranteed money that, and the signing bonuses that really dog you. So like what the Packers are doing with these guys, you get it out of the way in year 1, year 2. Let's say they bust, you cut bait and you're right back in it. It's like, it's nothing to you.
And another thing to point out is, if you're the Ravens, you can slow play that. You can slow play, you can draft and develop. But because you got that young quarterback core. If you're the Packers, Rodgers is 35 currently, you got 5 years, and 5 years is stretching it. I mean, Brady is 40, but the thing is, he's a system quarterback. Good or not, he's not taking them on his shoulders to get there. He's not making spectacular throws. He's no Pat Mahomes. He's not the best quarterback out there. He's just winning. So, statistically speaking, you only have a couple years. So to swing, you got to swing now. You might as well swing now, because once he's gone, you never know. The odds that we land Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and then the next Pat Mahomes are very, very few and far between.
Yeah, it's probably more likely that we're going to be see more Brett Hundleys.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the 10 years after he retires. Yeah, I'm glad they're swinging, because how many times we bitch at Ted Thompson?
Regardless, it's the best move to make in the situation that they're in.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the next question I'm going to ask is, are there any other free agent moves that you think they're either under the radar, or if you want to talk about Le'Veon Bell, or just any other free agents that you liked or didn't like?
I guess you're going to just say something I didn't really like. I think that the Houston Texans, with Deshaun Watson, they made the move to franchise tag Jadeveon Clowney, which was smart in my opinion, or sign him long term. If you can't sign him long term, franchise tag him, sure.
Yep.
But I don't like them not making any moves. They're on the cusp, in my opinion. They got a lot of talent. You got DeAndre Hopkins for what's going to be probably not much longer here, and the other wide receiver that ended up getting hurt,
Will Fuller.
Will Fuller. I mean, you got some talent there. I feel like you got to make a splash, and I don't know their cap situation is if they have the room or not. But man, can you imagine, say they had the room to make Le'Veon Bell go down there? That's going to put that team on the edge into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs. But they've been so good and right on the edge, and you got Jadeveon Clowney, J.J. Watt on the defense right next to each other. I mean, you got Will Fuller, Deshaun Watson, and then DeAndre Hopkins. And you guys can't make any moves to help them out right now? What are you doing?
I mean, right when you mentioned the Houston Texans, I thought they should have ponied it up. I'm looking in cap room. Why couldn't you go get Le'Veon Bell? Your running back situation's been shit. Lamar Miller is he's okay. He's a solid back, but there's a reason why they play Alfred Blue so much.
Right.
And I mean, they replaced Tyrann Mathieu with Deshaun Gibson from the Jags. Just decent signing. They got Bradley Roby on a 1-year deal from the Broncos. I mean, he was solid number 3 corner there. But you want to help out Deshaun Watson, man. He's got Hopkins. You can't and Will Fuller is he's a one-trick pony. He's a deep threat. Really. And I just think they could have They could easily launch themselves into Super Bowl contender status if they signed Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The other thing was
I'm with you on that.
Blake Bortles dropping Blake Bortles and signing Nick Foles. I think that's a great signing. I think Nick Foles is an awesome quarterback, and he can take the Jags to where they were 2 years ago when they played the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, I believe.
Yep, that was it.
And they still held their own. That defense has lost some pieces, but as long as you can keep Jalen Ramsey and some of the core there, you got Leonard Fournette. I like that signing. I love Nick Foles. I mean, the guy doesn't lose; he's a winner.
It's all about quarterback play for Jacksonville.
Yeah, but he's got that hype about him that like people rally around him. I mean, he doesn't even lose with the Eagles this last year if Alshon Jeffrey doesn't have butterfingers.
But Philadelphia is the only place that he's been good. So I'm a little just based. I don't mind them getting Nick Foles. I like them getting Nick Foles. Would I pay $50 million guaranteed to get Nick Foles? No. But in the end, you're desperate for a quarterback. You got to do what you got to do. You get John DeFilippo there. You think you keep the chemistry there, but they don't have a very good offensive line. They don't have a number one receiver
anymore.
Now that they let Allen Robinson walk and they let Allen Hurns walk, is what's he got to work with? Le'Veon Bell or not Le'Veon Bell? Leonard Fournette every other game. You can't. I wouldn't. They signed him with the money that they expect him to be the savior for the team, which I think he can be good for them. But $50 million, you're expecting him to carry you.
But in the past,
I don't think Nick Foles is that guy.
In the past 2 years, every time Nick Foles had a chance, he's made the absolute most of it. There's no denying.
That's true. I'm not denying that.
Okay. So I'm saying, like, he does need pieces around him, obviously, but everyone does. That offense has lost some key wide receivers, but outside of that, you draft a couple guys. Maybe they'll pick somebody up here. We don't know. I know they just got that guard, They re-signed their guard. That was pretty good. I think they'll be okay, dude. And I think Nick Foles is a good quarterback. You say you don't want to spend that much money. I get that. But look at Kirk Cousins. That dude had the most guaranteed money in NFL history. What has he done?
I would have said the same thing about Kirk Cousins. You're not paying him $90 million guaranteed.
The point is that's just the way it is. That's what guys make. They're shit and they'll make it. But because there's nobody else behind Nick Foles, behind Kirk Cousins, who's the guy of that next tier? Like, you got Teddy Bridgewater. He's not there yet. And you're still going to have to pay him a decent amount. He's not even in the same realm.
I hear you, but it's just the fit's good. The signing's good. It's just the only thing that drew me back, that at least took me back, was the money. But I mean, like you said, if he takes him to the playoffs again, he's worth it. So it's all about getting your guy. But it was like, yeah, I'm sort of now, but I think we mostly agree on that.
Yeah,
I think Cage basically. So I guess transition into the next thing is the comments from John Elway today. They made the Joe Flacco trade official. And he said they traded a 4th round pick to get him, which I think Baltimore was going to cut him anyway. So using a 4th round pick, which is, I would say, semi-valuable to get him for $20 million is sort of weird. But Elway said that he is just entering his prime. Joe Flacco is. And I just want to talk about how ridiculous that is, because he's been trashed for the last 3 years. And there's a reason. If he was if he was just entering his prime, Baltimore wouldn't have traded up to get Lamar Jackson. They wouldn't have benched Joe Flacco last year after they wouldn't have kept Lamar Jackson in the lineup.
I mean, I think Joe Flacco's taken a lot of heat over the years. That's not necessarily all deserved. I can't remember any weapons he had like Eli had in Odell Beckham. I just don't think they've ever been there. But Steve Smith, I don't think he's good anymore, and he's certainly absolutely not in his prime. He passed that right after he won that Super Bowl.
Yeah, he went downhill right after he got that contract, man. I mean, props to him for getting it, but
yeah, that's insane.
He's the poster boy for tying up all that money into a quarterback.
Right. The Broncos just jump every year from quarterback to quarterback. It's obviously something that's working for them.
And I gotta think he's on the hot seat.
And I would like to point out that a podcast, probably one of our last podcasts, I was a huge proponent of the Vikings letting Case Keenum walk for Kirk Cousins was terrible because he had already known the system. He was in there. He had the locker room. He had the team. He had the city on his back. And outside of, a bad play here or there, like he took them the lucky play with the Saints, but he took them to the NFC Championship game. Correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
yeah.
with the Eagles. And then they ditched him for Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins came in and did nothing. Nothing. Worse. They're worse. It's like I call that, but then he went to the Broncos, didn't pan out there, and now he's with the Redskins.
Yeah, the Redskins traded like the 7th rounder for him.
That's the Amari Cooper thing, when he's with the Raiders, he was dog shit, and he goes to Dallas. They don't even. Dak Prescott I didn't even know he could throw the ball. Left and right, and it's like, wow, how is this? Like, it's just people in certain places. Jordy Nelson absolutely killed it. He goes to the Raiders, doesn't do anything.
Yeah, a lot of it's fit too. So,
your personal life and just how happy you are in that area, and how much you want to try. What's it? But
so right now, I'm trying to think of, is there any other moves that you want to talk about? Otherwise, we can start to wrap this up a bit.
The only other thing would be the Jets and the massive amount of signings that they made, including Le'Veon Bell. They got Le'Veon Bell. They picked up Crowder, C.J. Mosley. I mean, those are some big upgrades.
Yeah, I like what the Jets are doing.
To an already okay team. I mean, they weren't great. They took the Packers to the end of the wire. We had to have A-Rod pull out some magic at the end of the year.
Yeah, it took him to overtime.
Yeah, I think that I think they'll be okay, dude. I really do.
Yeah, it's just like sort of what we were saying with the Ravens earlier, and it's like you're putting the pieces around Sam Darnold. Obviously, he's your prize guy. You took him number 3 overall. You're putting the weapons around him. You're putting him in when you have him on the cheap deal, facing that, putting around that sort of Rams model, I guess. You got the quarterback on the cheap rookie contract, sign big money guys everywhere else to try to help him out.
Yeah.
And I mean, what better piece, at least as at running back, to sign than Le'Veon Bell? Like that should be with Adam Gase. That should be a great fit there. Jamison Crowder, a good slot guy. Put him with Robbie Anderson, who's a pretty decent receiver. You go into the draft, just like what we said with the Packers. You can go anywhere now.
Yeah. Yeah. So the only thing that bothers me with Le'Veon Bell is him coming off a whole year of not doing anything. That being said, got one question for you, and then we can wrap this up. So generally you pick a running back first if you have top 5 pick in fantasy. You want a running back. So this coming year, you have Le'Veon Bell with the Jets coming off a massive year off, a whole year off. Okay.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley, who didn't even play in the Super Bowl, based on he got outplayed by CJ Anderson, which whatever, I don't just whatever.
If he's facing an injury, we don't know.
Yes, exactly. And then you have David Johnson, who is coming off an awful year, an awful season with the whole team.
Oh, Cardinals are awful.
And the only one left, I mean, you have Ezekiel Elliott, who's top tier, but I don't think he's not a Le'Veon Bell when Le'Veon Bell's active.
Yeah.
And then the only other one whose draft stock just went up immensely would be outside of Kareem Hunt, because nobody knows. I wouldn't want to touch that.
You can't.
Mark Ingram on the Ravens.
They pound the ball, man. They pound the ball.
Well, no, the Saints in Alvin Kamara. He's got to be the number one running back fantasy-wise and potentially the top pick. Am I wrong?
I think I got to agree with you on that, man.
Because I was thinking about it yesterday, and it's tough. If you take a number one – so let's do top 5 fantasy picks right now real quick. Number 1 overall, I think you got to take Alvin Kamara or shock the world and take Michael Thomas, because that guy never doesn't produce, ever.
I'm not taking receiver number 1. I'm not doing it.
Problem, though, but it's
Alvin. I'm not doing it. I got to take a running back.
But then you got to take Alvin Kamara. Am I wrong?
I gotta at least. Geez, I haven't even looked at any. Who's expected to be top guys, but I drafted in one league. I drafted Kamara at 6, and that was absolute steal of a pick at 6. And
you want Gurley or Bell, both coming off situations?
Yeah, I think I think I'm with you on Kamara, man.
I think he stands alone atop, because I don't want to touch David Johnson. Ezekiel Elliott would be the only other one I'd be okay with. Todd Gurley, I don't know if he's injured or what, but they're playing CJ Anderson in the biggest game of the entire season for them, biggest playoffs of the entire season. Obviously, there's issues going on there, whether that be like chemistry, team injury, whatever.
Yeah. Seeing as how much he catches the ball. What about Christian McCaffrey?
Christian McCaffrey is a solid pick. He is.
He really killed it last year.
And a sleeper, Aaron Jones really started tuning up. Not a top pick, but I'm saying he's
probably not first round. Maybe
he could end up having a season that's first round worthy. Somebody's just going to get lucky on it.
Yeah, I could see that, because I think Matt LaFleur wants to run the ball more too.
I think this year's fantasy drafts will be vastly different from the years past, in the fact that AB's on a different team. You know, Derek Carr's good, but is that team any good? I guess you're probably gonna have to throw the ball a lot, because that defense is garbage.
Yeah, who else are you gonna?
Odell Beckham should be good. Do you want Julio Jones? Has been so hit or miss this last year. And AJ Green, you still got Andy Dalton. And then the running back situation that I just described to you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be pretty wild.
It'll be interesting. I mean, yeah, I'm already looking forward to football season coming back.
So if you have a number 1 pick overall right now, who do you take?
I'm with you on Kamara. I think it's probably between him and McCaffrey, I'd say. But I'd take Kamara just because Drew Brees.
I think you got to take Kamara just because he was Sean Payton, and he's essentially a receiver and a running back, and he's the only one that doesn't have an outstanding issue.
Yeah, and it only ups his. Like I said, it only ups his value now that Mark Ingram's gone.
He was a 1,000-yard rusher with Mark Ingram being a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, and if it's a PPR league or even half, then it's a no-brainer. You're taking him.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wrong. Totally blown out of our mind because he's a rookie. Barkley.
Oh, no shit. How do we forget Saquon?
I think I'm still in the same boat. I think I'm still taking Kamara, but I'm taking Barkley before Elliott.
100% I'm taking Barkley.
But you still have the same pick. Am I wrong?
Yes, I'm still taking Kamara over Barkley, but yeah, Barkley's definitely top 3.
Top 3.
Probably top 2.
Probably 2.
Probably 2.
The thing is, the Todd Gurley just scares everybody. I mean, scares me. You have the
Yeah.
biggest game. This is all you. This is the big thing. This is what you work for. This is what you're paid to do. And he's not playing. And he wasn't hurt per them, but who knows? You know.
Yep.
So I think that'll do it for now.
Yeah. So, she's in that hour, 50 minutes to an hour that we've been podcasting for. Really, nothing. No new signings. The only thing that I've seen is Le'Veon Bell is officially a Jet, and I mean, he's a Giant now. Teddy Bridgewater re-signed with the Saints, but other than that, nothing really going on. I'm not going to promise that we'll be back next week, but hopefully we'll be able to keep this thing consistently going again. I'd like to thank everyone that tuned in, listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, watching it on YouTube. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.